Enter the rigid, unyielding world of ancient Sparta, a society sculpted by iron discipline and an unwavering dedication to military prowess. From the moment of his birth, a Spartan male's life was a meticulously planned ascent to become the ultimate soldier, a shield for his polis. This is his story, a journey of relentless training, communal bonds, and unshakable duty. If you like what I do, please like and subscribe. Now put on your headphones, pull up the blanket, take a deep breath, and relax. Your first breath was drawn not into a tender embrace, but into the stark reality of Spartan scrutiny. Born into a Spartan citizen family, your fate, even as a newborn, hung in the balance. Almost immediately, you were taken from your mother's side and presented to the elders, the grim-faced ephors, for a ruthless inspection at birth. An imaginative detail: your trembling new mother watched with bated breath, her heart pounding, as the ephors' cold eyes scanned your tiny form, searching for any hint of perceived weakness, a physical deformity, a sign of frailty. There was no mercy for the unfit. Tradition dictated that such infants were left to die, exposed on the slopes of Mount Taygetus, ensuring only the strongest survived. Your cries, if they were strong, were a good sign. Your tiny limbs, if they showed vigor, were noted. Every detail was scrutinized with dispassionate purpose. The silence of the elders was deafening, broken only by the whispers of the wind. A nod from them meant acceptance, a shake of the head, a tragic fate. You were deemed worthy. This initial, chilling assessment was your first test, a stark introduction to a society that prioritized the collective strength of the state above individual sentiment. This was the foundation of your existence. From your very first moments, your life was not your own, but a resource for Sparta to be honed into its ultimate weapon. The cold, calculating gaze of the ephors set the tone for a life where personal comfort was irrelevant, and only physical perfection and potential strength truly mattered. You were granted life, a privilege and a burden, as you were now destined for a path of unparalleled discipline and martial dedication. For your first 7 years, you remained at home, in the care of your mother. Yet, even in these tender years, the seeds of Spartan discipline were sown. Your mother, herself a product of rigorous Spartan upbringing, was your first instructor. She taught you discipline and obedience through unwavering consistency, not harshness. There were no tantrums tolerated, no coddling. You learned to suppress tears, to control your emotions, and to accept discomfort without complaint. You were encouraged to play, but your games often involved physical activity, running, and simple contests, preparing your body without you even knowing it. An imaginative detail: as a toddler, you were taught to endure cold baths, a shock to your system that quickly became routine, building resilience against the elements. Your food was deliberately bland and simple, devoid of indulgence. You learned the distinctive Spartan dialect, terse and direct, valuing brevity and clear communication over elaborate speech, laconic speech. Stories of legendary Spartan heroes, of courage in battle and unwavering loyalty filled your early imagination, instilling a sense of pride and destiny. Though living at home, you were acutely aware that your time there was limited. The shadow of the agog, the state training system, loomed large. Your mother instilled in you the principle, "Come back with your shield," or "on it," a stark choice that defined the Spartan warrior's return from battle. These formative years were a crucial preparation, forging a foundational mindset of hardiness, obedience, and an understanding that your personal desires were secondary to the demands of Sparta. The most defining moment of your childhood arrived with chilling finality, your 7th birthday. The day marked your separation from family and the beginning of the agoge. An imaginative detail. You clung to your mother's hand, perhaps for one last time, as a grim-faced paidonomos, the overseer of the agoge, arrived at your home, his presence an inescapable command. No tears were allowed, either from you or your mother. Displays of emotion were weakness, a concept you were already learning to suppress. You were taken to the agelai, herds or companies, barracks where you would live, eat, and train with boys your own age, under the strict supervision of older youths and seasoned drill masters. Your personal identity began to dissolve, replaced by that of the collective. Your family was now your agelea, your brothers in arms. The purpose was clear, to mold you into an unyielding, perfectly obedient, and highly skilled soldier, devoid of fear and independent thought. You slept on hard beds, often woven from reeds, and your clothing was minimal regardless of the biting cold of winter. This was the start of a relentless, state-sponsored military training system designed to strip away individual softness and forge an unbreakable weapon for Sparta. The cries of other new recruits, equally terrified and disoriented, filled the barracks, a symphony of shared hardship that would soon bind you together. From this day forward, your life belonged entirely to Sparta, every waking moment dedicated to becoming a defender of the polis, a true homoios. Your years from 7 to 12 in the agoge were a relentless crucible of discipline and hardship, designed to harden your body and sharpen your mind. You endured harsh physical training, long runs, grueling exercises, and competitive drills that pushed your young body to its limits, often with minimal rest. Clothing was deliberately minimal, even in winter. You learned to withstand cold and discomfort, understanding that true Spartans did not complain about petty ailments. You were given deliberate hunger, meager rations that were never quite enough. This was not cruelty, but a calculated lesson in cunning and self-reliance. An imaginative detail. One cold night, your stomach rumbling, you quietly slipped away from your sleeping comrades. You spotted a piece of bread left carelessly by a drill instructor in the mess hall. You quickly devoured it, your heart pounding, before he or any other older boy noticed you, a lesson in stealth and seizing opportunity. This sanctioned stealing was meant to teach you resourcefulness and the ability to operate undetected, vital skills for a warrior. Punishments for disobedience or weakness were swift and often physical, administered by older boys or paidonomai, reinforcing unwavering obedience. You learned to forage for wild foods, to identify edible plants, and to survive on your wits alone when necessary, preparing you for campaigns. Complaining was forbidden. Any sign of weakness or protest was met with contempt, forcing you to internalize your suffering and maintain a stoic demeanor.
These years forged an unbreakable resilience, teaching you to endure pain, hunger, and cold without breaking, cultivating the cunning and self-sufficiency that defined the Spartan warrior.
Beyond structured drills, a significant part of your training focused on primal combat. You spent countless hours learning to fight bare-handed, mastering techniques for close quarters engagement. Wrestling was a core discipline. You grappled with your comrades, learning throws, holds, and leverage, developing raw physical strength and understanding how to overpower an opponent. You practiced boxing, not for sport, but for survival, learning to deliver powerful blows and to absorb punishment, building incredible pain tolerance. Group combat without weapons was common. You'd be thrown into simulated melees, sometimes against older, stronger boys, learning to cooperate and protect your weaker comrades. An imaginative detail. You're shoved into a muddy pit with a handful of other boys, older and stronger, who immediately set upon you. You learn quickly to move, to dodge, to grab an arm, to find an opening, to survive through grit and the desperate, unspoken teamwork of your small group. This raw, unfiltered fighting taught you aggression, resilience, and the instinct to survive when disarmed or in a desperate situation. You learned to use your body as a weapon, knees, elbows, headbutts, and to exploit any weakness in your opponent's stance or resolve. The constant physical contact and shared struggle forged incredibly strong bonds within your agila, building trust and camaraderie in the face of shared adversity. There was no referee, only the expectation to fight until exhaustion or until a superior called a halt, ensuring absolute commitment to the struggle. This intense, primal training honed your body into a formidable weapon, preparing you not just for the structured phalanx, but for the chaotic, brutal realities of individual combat. As you progressed in the agoge, typically in your late teens, you might be chosen for or forced to participate in the crypteia, a harsh and controversial rite of passage. This was not just training. It was a deadly test designed to further instill cunning, self-reliance, and unwavering obedience to the state's most brutal commands. You were sent out into the Spartan countryside, armed with only a dagger and minimal provisions, to live off the land for an extended period, surviving entirely on your wits. The true purpose, however, was to act as a secret police, observing and occasionally hunting helots, the enslaved population that vastly outnumbered Spartan citizens. An imaginative detail. Shivering in the wilderness at night, hidden amongst the rocks, you spot the faint smoke of a distant helot fire. Your heart pounds. Do you observe their movements, noting their numbers and activities for future report? Or do you, if commanded, creep closer, ready to act on the chilling directive to call the strongest or most rebellious, proving your loyalty and ruthlessness? This clandestine action was designed to strike terror into the helots, preventing any organized rebellion, and to harden the Spartan youth against any sympathy. You learned to move silently, to ambush, and to disappear without a trace, honing your skills in stealth and clandestine warfare. The crypteia was a solitary, terrifying ordeal that pushed you to the brink, forcing you to confront the darker side of Spartan control. Surviving the crypteia proved your cunning, your endurance, and your absolute commitment to the Spartan system, however brutal its methods. This chilling practice underscored the ever-present threat of helot revolt and the lengths to which Sparta would go to maintain its fragile power structure.
Having mastered bare-handed combat and stealth, your training shifted to the iconic tools of the Spartan hoplite, the dory, spear, and the aspis, shield. This was intensive training, designed to make these weapons extensions of your own body, transforming you into a perfectly coordinated part of the formidable phalanx. The dory, a long, heavy, thrusting spear, required immense strength and precision. You learned to wield it in tight formation, thrusting over or under your comrades' shields. The aspis, a large, heavy, bronze-faced shield, was your primary defense and an offensive tool. Its weight alone was a challenge, demanding constant strength to hold steady. An imaginative detail. Your arm aches with a dull, persistent throb as you practice holding the heavy aspis for hours, unmoving, your body straining under its weight. You learn that it's not just your shield, but also a vital part of the man next to you, forming an unbreakable part of the shield wall. You trained in tight formations, learning to move as one, to maintain alignment, and to present an impenetrable wall of bronze and iron. Every drill emphasized cohesion and unwavering discipline. The strength of the phalanx came from its unity, not from individual heroism. You learned to pivot, to shift formation, and to absorb the shock of an enemy charge, relying on the men to your left and right as much as on your own strength. The sounds of training filled the air, the rhythmic thud of spears against practice dummies, the clatter of shields, and the sharp commands of your instructors. This rigorous weapon training perfected your role as a hoplite, transforming you into an essential, unyielding component of Sparta's legendary war machine.
A cornerstone of Spartan life, even more defining than the barracks, was the communal mess hall, or syssitia. This was where the bonds of military cohesion were truly forged. From the age of 20, as a full citizen, you were required to eat all meals in your designated syssitia, a dining group of about 15 men, chosen for their compatibility. Each man contributed a fixed amount of provisions, grain, wine, cheese, meat, from his produce, ensuring the collective sustenance of the group. The food was deliberately plain and simple, often the infamous black broth, melas zomos, a stew of pork, blood, salt, and vinegar, a taste acquired through necessity and discipline. An imaginative detail, a grumpy, grizzled elder, whose face bore the scars of countless battles, would sometimes deliberately throw a tough, gristly piece of meat at you across the table, grumbling about your slow eating or perceived softness, reinforcing the Spartan indifference to comforts and testing your composure. Conversation was encouraged, but focused on military matters, strategy, and discussions about the bravery or failures of comrades. Boasting was discouraged unless backed by true deeds. The syssitia was a place of constant camaraderie, where the bonds of shared hardship and absolute trust were forged over meals and discussions. It was also a place of social control, ensuring that all men adhered to the Spartan way of life, with no room for personal indulgence or extravagance. Failure to contribute your share to the syssitia meant loss of citizenship rights, a severe social and political punishment. The communal mess hall was more than just a place to eat. It was the heart of Spartan citizenship, reinforcing equality among peers, fostering unshakable loyalty, and embodying the collective identity of the warriors.
Around the age of 18 or 20, as you approached full military readiness, you underwent a significant ritual that marked your transition from eren, youth, to a more senior stage in the agoge. This involved a ritualistic haircut, where your long hair, often styled in braids during your youth, was cut short, symbolizing your entry into the ranks of adult warriors. More significantly, you would receive a distinctive falanga, a brooch or clasp, a simple but powerful symbol of your status and near readiness for full citizenship. An imaginative detail. The cold metal of the brooch, perhaps a simple bronze pin or clasp, felt heavy and significant against your chest as it was fastened. It was a moment of silent pride, marking your transition from a mere youth in training to a hoplite in waiting, on the cusp of becoming a true homoios. This brooch was likely used to fasten your himation, cloak or tunic, distinguishing you from the younger boys and helots. This period was a final test of your discipline and readiness before you were considered a fully fledged member of the citizen body. You would spend these years completing your most advanced training, refining your weapon skills, and fully integrating into the military hierarchy. The anticipation of full citizenship, of being a homoios, was palpable, driving you to excel in these final stages of the agoge. This ritual marked a physical and symbolic transformation, signifying that you were now a hardened, almost complete instrument of the Spartan state, ready for its greatest demands. It was a quiet promise of the warrior's life to come, binding you to the generations of Spartans who had worn the same symbol of readiness and duty.
At the age of 20, after years of relentless training and proving your worth, you achieved the ultimate status in Spartan society. You officially became a homoios, or peer or equal. This meant you were now a full citizen and soldier, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. You were a member of the Spartan assembly, Apella, with a voice in the polis's affairs. An imaginative detail. You cast your vote in the assembly for the first time, your hand raised to indicate your yes or no on a matter of state. Your voice, now counting among your peers, was a tangible expression of your newfound political power. You were expected to maintain your contribution to your Syssitia, as failure to do so would result in the loss of your citizenship. Your life was now entirely devoted to military service. You lived in the barracks, trained daily, and were ready to march at a moment's notice. This was the pinnacle of Spartan male existence, the culmination of 2 decades of brutal preparation, transforming you into an elite warrior and a vital political entity. The distinction between citizen and soldier was blurred. They were one and the same. Your identity was irrevocably tied to your military role. You were considered a true Spartiate, a member of the elite ruling class, vastly outnumbered but militarily supreme over the helots and perioikoi. This status brought immense prestige, but also immense pressure. You were the guardian of Sparta, its living shield and spear. Achieving homoios status was a profound moment, validating your entire upbringing and affirming your sacred duty to defend the polis against all threats, both internal and external.
Even as a full soldier dedicated to the barracks, Sparta recognized the need for procreation. You were allowed to marry, but the experience was far from conventional. Marriage was a peculiar affair, often arranged for practical reasons, to produce healthy offspring for the state, not for romantic love. Your wedding would be a simple ceremony, typically involving a capture ritual, where your bride was symbolically carried off. The unusual twist was that even after marriage, you still lived in the barracks with your fellow soldiers. Your commitment to the Syssitia and military life remained absolute.
An imaginative detail. Under the cloak of night, you would sneak out of the barracks, your movements silent and swift, to meet your veiled bride. Your encounter would be brief, whispered words of affection, perhaps a shared moment in the darkness before you had to slip back to your comrades before dawn broke and your absence was noted. This practice was meant to keep the soldiers focused on their duty, to foster a perpetual honeymoon period, and perhaps to encourage more robust offspring due to the anticipation. Your wife, a Spartan woman, was equally disciplined, managing the household, raising children, and maintaining the family's property in your absence. Children born of this union would be raised in turn for the agoge, perpetuating the cycle of Spartan military life. The primary purpose of marriage was to ensure the continued strength and numerical stability of the Spartan citizen body, not individual marital bliss. This strange, almost furtive marital arrangement underscored the absolute primacy of the state over individual desires, even in the most personal of relationships. The core of your existence as a homios was serving in the phalanx, the ultimate expression of Spartan military might and discipline. You were a disciplined, unwavering hoplite, armed with your heavy aspis and long dory, a perfectly honed weapon in a human wall. The phalanx was not about individual heroics, but about perfect cohesion and collective strength. Your life depended on the man next to you, and his on yours. An imaginative detail. As the enemy approached, you pushed against the shield of the man to your left, feeling the collective power of the shield wall. Your right side, traditionally unprotected by your own shield, was covered by the aspis of the man next to you. This mutual reliance created a terrifying, irresistible force that advanced relentlessly. You marched in lockstep, the rhythmic beat of thousands of feet shaking the ground, the sound of your combined breathing a powerful, guttural roar. The training of decades culminated in this moment. To stand firm, to push, to thrust your spear, and to never break formation, no matter the chaos around you. The thureos, battle cry of the Spartans, sharp and piercing, would erupt from your throat, striking fear into the hearts of your enemies. Your red cloak, worn over your bronze armor, was meant to hide bloodstains and instill fear, a striking sight on the battlefield. Every nerve ending would be alive, every sense heightened. The smell of dust, sweat, and fear, the clang of bronze, the screams, all part of the symphony of battle. Serving in the phalanx was your destiny, the ultimate demonstration of your lifelong dedication to Sparta, turning you into a living, breathing component of its legendary, unbreakable military machine. Your life of training culminated in the crucible of real combat, facing down the enemies of Sparta. You would have your own personal battlefield experience that echoed the legends. Imagine yourself on a narrow pass, perhaps mirroring the heroic stand at Thermopylae, facing an overwhelming horde. The sheer numbers of the enemy would be daunting. An imaginative detail. You held your ground, shoulder to shoulder with your brothers, your aspis forming an unbreakable wall as a storm of Persian arrows rained down, clattering harmlessly off bronze and shield. You felt the heavy impact of their bodies crashing against your line, your spear thrusting forward with lethal precision. As the enemy tried to overwhelm you, you heard a grizzled veteran's voice roar, "Molon labe," meaning, "Come and get them." And you joined the shout, a defiant roar from the heart of the Spartan line. You would witness the chaos and brutality of close-quarters combat, the desperate courage of your comrades, and the terror in the eyes of your enemies. Discipline was paramount.
You trusted your training, your comrades, and the unyielding nature of the phalanx to carry you through. The taste of dust and blood, the scent of sweat and fear, the ringing in your ears from the constant din of battle, these sensations would be seared into your memory. You saw men fall, but there was no time for grief. Your focus was on the enemy, on maintaining the line, on ensuring Sparta's victory. Surviving such a battle would leave you forever changed, a true veteran, having faced death and emerged victorious, solidifying your reputation. This battlefield experience was the ultimate test of your life's preparation, proving that the Spartan system indeed forged unparalleled warriors. You were not just a soldier, you were a living embodiment of the Spartan ideal, capable of standing against any foe, a testament to courage and unwavering resolve.
While Spartan victories were legendary, defeat, though rare, carried a unique and devastating consequence for any survivor. If you were unlucky enough to endure a rare Spartan defeat, you might face the ignominious status of a trembler. The shame was immense. To return from battle without your shield, or to be one of the few survivors of a catastrophic loss, branded you as a coward in the eyes of your peers. The tremblers, or tresantes, were not executed, but they faced a living death, becoming outcasts in Spartan society, stripped of their honor and many civil rights. An imaginative detail: you once saw a trembler walking through the agora, his head bowed in profound shame. No one spoke to him. He was shunned, unable to participate in the syssitia, forced to shave half his beard, and often subjected to public ridicule. It was a stark reminder of the cost of failure, a fate worse than death for a true Spartan. They could not hold office, were not allowed to choose their marriage partners, and their presence at public games or festivals was forbidden. Even their wives might face social stigma, and their children would be eyed with suspicion, facing difficulties in the agoge. This extreme punishment was designed to ensure that Spartans would rather die in battle than retreat or surrender, reinforcing the "with your shield or on it" ethos. The very thought of becoming a trembler was a powerful motivator, driving soldiers to fight with unwavering courage, even in the face of impossible odds. You understood that while individual life was precious, the collective honor of Sparta and its unbreakable reputation were paramount. The fate of the trembler was a chilling lesson, a constant, silent threat that underscored the absolute nature of Spartan discipline and the dire consequences of failing to uphold the ideals of courage.
Beyond grand battles, a constant insidious military duty for you was the regular policing of the helots, the enslaved population of Messenia and Laconia. The helots vastly outnumbered the Spartans, perhaps by a ratio of 7-1 or more, making their suppression a continuous and vital military function to prevent any organized revolt. You were regularly involved in expeditions into the helot lands, acting as an occupying force, maintaining a visible presence to instill fear and obedience. An imaginative detail: you rode through a dusty helot village, your armed presence a silent threat. You observed their sullen faces, their arduous labor in the fields. Your every movement was a deliberate act of intimidation, ensuring their continued obedience and crushing any spark of rebellion before it ignited. These patrols were not always about direct confrontation, but about surveillance, gathering intelligence, and demonstrating overwhelming Spartan power. Occasionally, you might participate in a clope,
a clandestine raid to eliminate particularly defiant or strong helots, preventing them from becoming leaders. This constant, low-level military duty was psychologically demanding, requiring relentless vigilance and a willingness to act ruthlessly when necessary. It was a stark reminder of the fragile balance of Spartan society, built upon the coerced labor and oppression of a vast enslaved population. The helot threat shaped much of Spartan military strategy and social organization, ensuring that every Spartan male was perpetually a soldier, ready for internal as well as external conflict. Your role in policing the helots underscored the darker, more brutal aspects of Spartan society, a necessary evil in their eyes to maintain their unique system.
Despite being a full citizen and even a married man, the discipline of the agoge did not truly end at 20. You continued to live, eat, and train in the barracks until the age of 30. This extended communal living reinforced the unbreakable bonds formed during your youth and ensured continuous military readiness and discipline. Your days were still dominated by training, physical exercise, and communal meals in the Syssitia, maintaining the rigorous routine you had known since childhood. An imaginative detail. Sometimes, especially after a brief, clandestine visit with your wife, you would feel a fleeting longing for your own home, for the privacy and warmth of a family life. But the shared laughter, the quiet camaraderie, and the unbreakable bonds forged over decades in the barracks were a powerful, comforting force, an intrinsic part of your identity. Your wife remained at home, managing the household and raising your children, accepting your absence as a fundamental part of Spartan life. This prolonged barrack life kept you honed as a fighting machine, preventing any lapse in discipline or softening that could arise from domestic comforts. It also fostered a deep sense of collective identity, where the group's needs always superseded individual desires or familial obligations. The barracks were your true home, your comrades, your brothers, a perpetual state of readiness for the service of Sparta. This unique social structure ensured that Sparta maintained a professional, highly trained standing army composed entirely of its citizens, ready at a moment's notice. Living in the barracks until 30 was a testament to Sparta's relentless pursuit of military perfection, integrating every aspect of a man's life into the machinery of the state.
After decades of unwavering commitment, a life of relentless training, and potential combat, the age of 60 brought a significant shift in your duties. At this age, you were officially exempt from front-line military service. The burden of leading charges or holding the line in the phalanx was lifted from your shoulders. An imaginative detail, you would stand on the training ground, watching the younger men, strong and swift, march off to battle. A sense of quiet pride swelled in your chest for their dedication, mingled with a subtle relief that your own days of active fighting were now over, replaced by the wisdom of experience. However, your commitment to Sparta did not end. You remained part of the reserve forces, ready to defend the city if absolutely necessary, even in old age. Crucially, you retained all your political rights as a homoios. Your voice in the assembly still counted, and you could be elected to various magistracies. You continued to contribute to the Syssitia, maintaining your place in the communal mess hall, your experience now serving as a guide for younger men. Your focus shifted from direct combat to advising, training, and maintaining the social fabric of Sparta, ensuring the next generation was as capable as yours. This retirement was not a period of idleness, but a transition to a new form of service, where wisdom and experience replaced raw physical strength. You were a living testament to Sparta's longevity and unwavering dedication, a symbol of the enduring power of its military system. Reaching 60 was an achievement in itself, a recognition of a life spent in tireless devotion to the polis, earning you a respected place in the autumn of your years.
For those who reached old age with exceptional wisdom, courage, and a lifetime of dedicated service, a rare and prestigious honor awaited: election to the Gerousia. The Gerousia was the council of elders, comprising 28 men over the age of 60, elected for life, and the 2 kings. It was Sparta's highest governing body, wielding significant political power. An imaginative detail: your voice, though now perhaps raspy with age, carried immense weight in the assembly as you offered counsel. Your words were tempered by decades of military campaigns, political experience, and an unwavering commitment to the traditional Spartan way of life. Younger men would listen intently, seeking wisdom. Members of the Gerousia initiated legislation, sat as a high court, and prepared motions for the appella, assembly, shaping the destiny of Sparta. Your election would be a testament to your unparalleled reputation and the trust placed in your judgment by your fellow citizens. This role was the ultimate form of service for a Spartan male, a shift from physical protector to intellectual and political guardian of the polis. You would spend your days in grave deliberations, discussing strategy, law, and the welfare of Sparta, ensuring its continued strength and stability. Your experience in battle, in diplomacy, and in managing the helots would inform your every decision, rooted in a pragmatic understanding of power. Being a geronte, member of the Gerousia, meant you were among the most powerful and respected men in Sparta, guiding its future. Your final years would be spent in profound service, using your wisdom to perpetuate the very system you had embodied for so long, a fitting capstone to a Spartan life. Even in old age, the Spartan ethos remained ingrained. You continued to prioritize physical fitness and steadfastly adhered to the Spartan ideals of austerity and simplicity. There was no softening, no succumbing to the comforts of retirement. Your body was a temple of discipline, maintained through continued, though perhaps less rigorous, exercise. An imaginative detail: even as your hair thinned and turned white, you would still take your daily cold bath, your body accustomed to the shock, a silent personal testament to a lifelong commitment to hardship and resilience, a habit ingrained since childhood. Your diet remained plain, your contributions to the Syssitia unwavering. There was no room for indulgence or personal extravagance, even for an elder. You would participate in lighter training drills, perhaps overseeing younger recruits or demonstrating techniques, passing on your vast experience. Your clothing would remain simple, functional, and devoid of adornment, reflecting the Spartan disdain for material wealth and ostentation. The mind remained sharp, constantly engaged in discussions of strategy, philosophy, and the ongoing affairs of the polis, maintaining intellectual rigor. This continued adherence to the Spartan way of life, even without active combat duty,
ensured that you remained a symbol of the virtues that made Sparta great. You were a living example for the younger generations, demonstrating that true Spartan discipline was a lifelong commitment, not just a phase. Your continued simplicity and physical upkeep were a quiet, powerful statement, affirming that the strength of Sparta lay not just in its warriors, but in the unwavering character of its citizens, from youth to venerable age.
Your remarkable life, dedicated entirely to Sparta, would eventually draw to its close. You would die in old age, a rare achievement for a warrior, and your final rest would reflect your unique path. Unlike other Greeks, Spartans did not place elaborate monuments over their graves. If you fell in battle, your tombstone would bear only your name, a simple but profound honor. If you died peacefully in old age, your burial would be equally simple, reflecting the Spartan disdain for personal pomp and their focus on collective glory. An imaginative detail: you would be ceremoniously wrapped in your distinctive red cloaks, the very color that had struck fear into your enemies and symbolized your lifelong dedication to combat. This simple shroud was your final uniform. Your body would be buried simply, perhaps within the city walls, a privilege granted to only a few, as most Greeks buried outside their cities. There would be no elaborate funeral rites or lengthy lamentations. Spartan mourning was restrained, recognizing that death in service was a natural part of life. Your life was a quiet testament to unwavering service to Sparta. You sought no personal glory beyond the polis's strength, and your legacy was its continued existence. You left behind no grand monuments to your individual achievements, for your achievement was Sparta itself, its discipline, its military might, its enduring spirit. Your children and grandchildren would continue your lineage, perpetuating the cycle of Spartan life, their lives built upon the foundation you had helped to forge. Your demise was not an end, but a quiet, dignified return to the earth, your life a completed chapter in the enduring saga of the most formidable warriors of the ancient world.
Your saga, a testament to unyielding will and iron discipline, now finds its quiet end. From the first harsh inspection to your final rest wrapped in the iconic red, you lived and breathed for Sparta. Your life was the very embodiment of its strength, a shield for its ideals and a spear for its enemies. Remember, the echo of your unwavering service resonates through the ages. Now relax and enjoy the silence, for your duty is complete.